Right now, you're touching plastic. Your phone case, your keyboard, the zipper on your jacket, the screen you're looking at probably depends on it too. It's wrapped around your food, built into your car, hidden inside your home, and woven into thousands of products you use without ever noticing. For more than 50 years, scientists, governments, and companies have searched for something to replace it. They've spent billions. They've invented new materials. They've banned single-use plastics in parts of the world. And yet, plastic keeps winning. Every time engineers think they've found a better alternative, they run into the same frustrating problem. Not because people don't care, not because we lack the technology, but because plastic can do something almost no other material can. So here's the real question. If the world wants plastic gone so badly, why can't we replace it? The answer has almost nothing to do with recycling or public awareness, and everything to do with why plastic became one of the most extraordinary materials humans have ever created. To understand why plastic refuses to die, you have to understand why it was born. Picture the 1860s. Billiard balls were made from ivory, real elephant tusks, carved by hand. Demand exploded. Elephants were being slaughtered by the thousands just so rich men could play a game. A company offered a cash prize: invent an ivory substitute or watch the supply run out completely. An inventor named John Wesley Hyatt took the challenge. He wasn't trying to save the planet. He wasn't thinking about landfills or oceans. He was trying to save elephants from extinction and make money doing it. What he created was celluloid, the first true plastic. It didn't come from nature. It was built, atom by atom, to behave exactly how humans wanted it to behave. That single idea, matter designed on demand, would eventually reshape civilization. But here's the part almost nobody realizes. Plastic wasn't invented to be cheap trash. It was invented to be precious. It replaced ivory. It replaced tortoiseshell. It replaced silk. In the beginning, plastic was the eco-friendly alternative. Let that sink in. The material we now blame for destroying the planet started as the solution protecting it. So what went wrong? Fast forward a few decades. Chemists discovered something extraordinary. By rearranging carbon and hydrogen atoms, the building blocks found in oil, they could create materials with almost supernatural properties. Light as paper, strong as metal, waterproof as glass, cheap as dirt. No natural material could compete on every category at once. Wood rots, metal rusts, glass shatters, cotton tears, stone is heavy, ivory runs out. Plastic did none of those things. Engineers didn't choose plastic because they were lazy. They chose it because mathematically, nothing else made sense. Imagine designing a car. You need something strong enough to survive a crash, light enough to save fuel, cheap enough to mass produce, and moldable enough to form complex shapes. Metal fails 2 of those. Wood fails 3. Plastic fails none. That's not convenience, that's domination. By the 1950s, plastic wasn't just an option anymore. It was the obvious answer to almost every engineering problem on Earth, and that's when everything scaled. Here's where the story turns dark. The same qualities that made plastic unstoppable, its strength, its resistance to water, its refusal to break down, became a global catastrophe. Wood decomposes in years. Plastic can survive for centuries. The very chemical bonds that make it durable also make it nearly immortal. We built a material engineered to never die, and then threw it away. Oceans began filling with it. Microplastics started showing up in human blood, in placentas, in Antarctic snow. The miracle material became the villain of every documentary about the environment. So scientists did the obvious thing. They tried to replace it. That should have worked. It didn't. Here's the twist almost nobody understands. Plastic isn't one material. It's thousands. There's rigid plastic for pipes, flexible plastic for bags, heat-resistant plastic for engines, transparent plastic for medical equipment, each one engineered for one specific job, at one specific cost, with one specific performance level. To replace plastic, you don't need one invention. You need thousands of separate solutions, each one matching decades of chemical refinement. Engineers tried paper straws. They dissolved in drinks. They tried bioplastics from corn. Many couldn't handle heat or moisture. They tried metal packaging. It tripled the shipping weight, which increased fuel use and carbon emissions. That's the part that breaks people's assumptions. Sometimes, replacing plastic makes the environmental problem worse, not better. A glass bottle takes more energy to produce and transport than a plastic one. A cotton tote bag, according to several environmental studies, may need to be reused thousands of times to match the carbon footprint of a single plastic bag. The intuitive fix isn't always the real fix. That's the trap. So why hasn't a true replacement emerged? Because plastic wins on every axis simultaneously: cost, weight, strength, waterproofing, moldability, and mass production speed. A challenger doesn't need to be better in one category. It needs to be better in all of them at once, without exploding the price. Nothing has managed that yet. Bioplastics come close, but many require industrial composting facilities most cities don't have. Mushroom-based packaging is promising, but it's slower to produce and harder to scale to billions of units a year. Even the most advanced lab-grown materials still struggle to match plastic's absurdly low production cost. Imagine trying to replace something that's simultaneously the cheapest, strongest, lightest, and most versatile option in almost every product category on Earth. That's not a design problem. That's a physics and economics problem stacked on top of each other. Here's the bigger picture almost nobody talks about. Plastic isn't the disease. Disposal is. The real crisis was never that plastic exists. It's that a permanent material got treated as disposable. We built something meant to last centuries, then used it for 6 minutes and threw it in the trash. Engineers are shifting the goal. Instead of eliminating plastic entirely, many are focused on redesigning how we use it. Better recycling systems, reusable industrial plastics, and next-generation polymers that break down safely when they're actually meant to. The mystery was never why plastic exists. It's why we built something built to last forever, and used it like it didn't matter at all. So the next time you unwrap a package, or click a pen, or snap a phone case into place, look closer. You're not just holding plastic. You're holding one of the most successful materials humanity has ever engineered, a substance so perfectly optimized that, decades later, our best scientists still can't beat it. Plastic didn't win by accident. It won because, for now, nothing else comes close. If this changed how you see something you use every day, that's exactly what this channel is about. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment. I read every single one, and they genuinely shape future topics. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. That already puts you ahead of most viewers. If you're curious about the hidden side of everyday things, subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments what we should break down next.